And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Tuesday, February 13th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today, but before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that being said, let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about the 49ers, and their comments regarding the new overtime rules. So it seems like they just were not aware of the new overtime rules that were put in place a couple of years ago. Now, this was the first time that they were used because, there wasn't any overtime games until this past Super Bowl. So we'll get into that in just a second. Then in the second part of the show, we'll dive back into Chiefs dynasty talk, because now with this third Super Bowl, they are officially a dynasty. And I know I talked about this, the last couple of weeks before, leading up to the game, but we'll get into that again, talk about it. Then in the third part of the show, we'll do an NFL Honors recap. So I know that happened on Thursday, so we'll talk about that, and dive into that. Because I know Friday I just did a full Super Bowl show. Because I was trying to remember. I'm like, wait, it was on Thursday. What did I? So Friday I talked about the Super Bowl. So now, and yesterday we just recapped the game as well. So, I'll talk about the NFL honors, who won each award. We'll get into that. Then in the final part of the show, we'll talk about the new streaming service that'll be launching in the fall. So Fox, ESPN, and Warner Brothers, they have now joined forces, and they will be creating a new streaming platform, a new sports streaming platform that will be launching in the fall. So we'll talk about the impact of that, and I'll give you my opinion on that as well. So with that being said, let's get into the first topic, which is talking about the 49ers not being aware of the new overtime rules. So, because I know there was a lot of, I know teams, or not teams, but, fans are talking about how, why did they not go for the touchdown? Why did they kick the field goal? Because, you're giving the ball back to Mahomes, and all they have to do is score a touchdown, and they win. And actually, interesting thing, so they were interviewing Mahomes, and he said that, he's like, I don't know if I should be saying this, but I'm going to say it anyways. So if the 49ers, all right, that was my dog being a maniac outside, outside my door. But anyways, if you could hear that. So he said that if the 49ers got a touchdown, that if the Chiefs went down the field and scored a touchdown of their own, they would have went for two to try to win the game. And he said, I don't know if I should be saying that, but he's like, I'm going to say it anyways. But we're never going to see that because, we obviously know what happened. But, so interesting quote from Kyle Juszczyk. So basically he said that he assumed the 49ers asked to receive the ball when they won the toss because that's what you do in regular season when a touchdown wins the game. And he said, I guess that's not the case. I don't really know the strategy. Multiple San Francisco players said after the game that they were not aware that the overtime rules are different in the playoffs than they are in the regular season, and strategy discussions over how to handle the overtime period did not occur as a team. Defensive lineman Eric Armstead said he learned the details of the postseason rule when it was shown on the Allegiant Stadium Jumbotron during a TV timeout after regulation. And Kyle Shanahan explained the decision to receive the ball first, citing the desire to have the opportunity to win the game if both teams match scores. So basically, if both teams scored a touchdown and the Niners get the ball back, all the Niners would have to do is get in the field goal range. But now, when you hear what I just said about Mahomes, the Chiefs would have went for two. So it's either the game would have been won or lost at that. Well, actually, how would that have worked then? So, but if they were going for two to win the game, I guess then the game's over because then the Chiefs are ahead, right? But that was their first possession. See, now I'm actually not sure about that because that was the Chiefs' first possession of overtime, and we almost went into double overtime. So does that mean if they went for two and got it, would the game be over? That you know what I'm. It, let me know in the comments because yeah, because I don't know. Did they have that on the graphic when they showed the new overtime rules? Because how the game would have ended is in another way is if there's a defensive touchdown. So if the Niners got the ball and Purdy throws a pick six, the game's over. Which I mean that's kind of obvious. But yeah, so if the Chiefs went for two to win the game to go ahead, but then again that's their first possession of overtime. I'm gonna have to look that up unless somebody else can explain that to me because yeah I mean because that's what Mahomes said. He's like we're going for two to win the game. Or I guess maybe to go, or I guess like that would put them ahead, and then if the Niners, didn't do anything, then yeah, the Chiefs would win. I feel like that makes more sense, but I don't know. But yeah, but what Shanahan said was, get the ball, score a touchdown. Chiefs answer with a touchdown. They get the ball back. They go down the field, kick a field goal, win the game. Some criticized Shanahan's decision, arguing that knowing what was needed to win or tie the game outweighed the desire to have the final possession. The Chiefs appeared to have prepared for overtime scenarios with defensive linemen Chris Jones stating they had discussed overtime strategies in the lead up to the game. It seemed like the Chiefs were prepared for this. I mean, considering that, this all started. The reason why the overtime rules are different in the playoffs is because of what happened a couple of years ago with the Bills and the Chiefs. Bills were winning. 13 seconds left in that game. Chiefs had all three timeouts. They get into field goal range. Butker kicks that field goal. They go to overtime. And then what ends up happening? The Chiefs get the ball. They win the coin toss. And they go right down the field, score a touchdown. The touchdown to Kelsey to win the game. And Josh Allen never got an opportunity to get the ball. And because of that, there was all of that noise that these rules need to be changed. And that's why. And the Chiefs actually said, yeah, we're in favor of that. So I think that's also why. Because, yeah, I think they were, the front runners in that discussion. And that's why the rule ended up changing. But, again, we never saw it. We didn't see it in last year's playoffs. There was no games that went to overtime. This was the first time in the Super Bowl, of course, that we're seeing these new rules. And because I had my Super Bowl party and they're asking me what the rules are, and I'm just like, well, I mean, they showed it on the first of all, they showed it on the TV, so there shouldn't have been any more discussion after that. But yeah, that's what happens. But yeah, I mean, I'm fine with the new rules, but I don't know if it's because they're looking for an excuse, like, oh, we didn't realize these were the new rules. Maybe if we did, things would have been different. But I really don't know. I mean, I don't think there's really anything to complain about. Both teams had an opportunity to possess the ball, regardless of what happened. And on top of that, the 49ers did not get a touchdown. They kicked a field goal. And again, there's people out there criticizing Shanahan for not going for it and trying to get the touchdown. But, I mean, it's a tough call. And the Chiefs were moving the ball late in the game. Both defenses were getting tired. So I don't really blame them kicking the field goal. At the same time, though, if Brock Purdy has protection on that play in overtime on the third down, Brandon Ayuk is wide open in the end zone. Now, I saw on Twitter people criticizing Purdy because he didn't, he didn't, it was something with the protection. He didn't have the protection right because he had the protection set wrong. And that's why Chris Jones just came flying through with nobody blocking. Now, I don't know. Are you really going to... I mean, I guess because Purdy is the commander of the offense there. But, I mean, somebody's got to block Chris Jones. That's one of the best defensive player on the field for the Chiefs. And you just leave him unblocked. Again, if Purdy has some time there, again, Ayuk is wide open. That's a touchdown. And then we see if the Chiefs go down the field and score, do they go for two? So, but Yeah, I mean, that would have been interesting if they went for two. If, if the 49ers got a touchdown. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what. I mean, are they looking for an excuse? I don't think they're looking for an excuse. I think they just flat out were unaware. And I mean, honestly, for me, I mean, you should know the rules. But at the same time, this is the first time that these rules have been used in a game because again, there were no overtime games last year in the playoffs. This is the first time, and it's in the Super Bowl. So, and yeah, I mean, you go through the regular season, the rules are pretty much the same. It's just they they weren't put into effect until the Super Bowl, this year's Super Bowl. So I kind of understand why maybe they just forgot. I mean, well, I don't think they just didn't know. But yeah, so I mean now they know, and it's just again. I mean, I did a short on it yesterday, but I just really feel for the 49ers players that they just again come up short. And again, Kyle Shanahan getting some criticism, even though I just can't sit here and say that it really is his fault. Because I really don't think it is. I mean, yes, they did blow a 10-point lead, but part of the reason for that is because of what happened on the punt. They fumbled, and then the Chiefs immediately scored after that. So, I mean, are you going to blame that on Kyle Shanahan? It's not Kyle Shanahan's fault. It's not Kyle Shanahan's fault that Jake Moody's extra point got blocked. Now, that was one thing I was nervous about going into the game was their kicking. And Jake Moody did a great job. 55-yard field goal like it was nothing to open up the game, to open up the scoring. So, you know what? He did his part. It's just, yeah, he got blocked. Chiefs special teams made a great play. And yeah, those two plays really made the difference. Now, could the offense have generated more points, cashed in on Chiefs' mistakes? Absolutely. But I really think it comes down to those two plays. And yeah, I mean, you go to overtime, the Chiefs were on a roll offensively. Yeah, I mean, you weren't going to shut the Chiefs down completely the whole game. It was only a matter of time. And they just, they couldn't capitalize on mistakes by the Chiefs. And yeah, I mean, it happens, but it just it's unfortunate because again, I wanted to see the 49ers hoist the trophy this year, and it didn't happen. Like I said, my heart was with the Niners, my head was with the Chiefs. But and listen, we ended up getting a great game, and now both teams they're going to be good next year. I mean, the Chiefs you would think are going to be better because the receiving core was pretty lackluster this year. And I think they're going to want to. I mean, now with the talks of Mahomes restructuring his contract, you figure they're going to try to add to that position. Because, I mean, listen, you got Rashee Rice. Valdez-Scantling was making plays in the postseason. You just need another wide receiver there. Because, again, you're not going to have Travis Kelce forever. So, I mean, this is stuff I'm going to talk about in the second segment. But, yeah, I mean, I just thought it was interesting that the 49ers were completely unaware of the new overtime rules. And then the Chiefs were completely prepared for it. They were like, this is, again, talking about, going through different scenarios. But, I mean, I don't know. It's not an excuse to me. It's just, we haven't seen it yet. This is the first time we saw it. And I thought we were going to double overtime, which sign me up. I was ready for it. And the Chiefs scored a touchdown before time expired in the first overtime quarter. So we didn't get to see it. Because again, that would have been the first double overtime Super Bowl. But yeah, so yeah, I mean that's pretty much it when talking about this. Let me know what you guys think about this. Do you think the 49ers are trying to look for an excuse as to why they lost? Because, again, they were like, well, maybe there's a different strategy you take. But I don't know. Because, again, like, if they – because they won the coin toss. If they were like, hey, we'll defer it, let the Chiefs take it, I mean, then then the Chiefs go right down the field. They score 7. I mean, do you want to have to go the length of the field and score 7 to answer them to tie the game? I mean, I'm fine with what they did. It's just, again, they didn't cash in and get a touchdown. They got a field goal. And at that point, you're like, well, the Chiefs are, you know what's going to happen. And the Chiefs went right down the field, and they scored, and they won the game. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. So, with that being said, we're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, we will continue our discussion talking about the Kansas City Chiefs and how they are the new dynasty. So, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.